Blind date exposed, Millionaire CEO's heartwarming turn of fate when single dad saves her life. Sarah strode purposefully through the bustling streets of Manhattan, her perfectly tailored suit whispering success. The city was alive around her, but inside, her heart thundered with loneliness. People admired the self-made millionaire's sharp wit, unrivaled business acumen, yet she felt an emptiness that no boardroom victory could fill. Tonight would change everything, or so her colleague insisted. A blind date, arranged at the most luxurious charity gala of the year, where glitz and glamour reigned supreme, the lavish ballroom sparkled under the dazzling lights. Men and women draped in designer attire swirled like living jewels, laughter and chatter filling the air. As Sarah stepped inside, she felt the weight of obligation push against her shoulders. Mingle with the elite, put on a face, act like everything's perfect. She searched for her date among the throng but found only strangers, each one a potential connection she couldn't grasp. Just as she began to let loose, a deafening roar swept through the crowd. It erupted into chaos, flames licked through the air, and panic surged. The world had turned upside down. Her date, wide-eyed and scrambling, vanished in the frenzy. Sarah's heart raced. She jolted back, her breath caught in her throat, immobilized by fear. Then, from the smoke, a figure emerged. Jake, a waiter with time-worn hands, charged through the turmoil. His presence was a stark contrast to the opulence around him. He had a purpose. In a heartbeat, he reached Sarah, pulled her close, and dashed out just before debris crashed down where she stood. The world blurred for Sarah as they collapsed outside, adrenaline fading to a shivering stillness. She blinked against the flashing lights of sirens, heart hammering like a drum. Both found themselves in sterile hospital rooms, separated only by thin walls. In their shared experience of survival, an unexpected bond began to form. Jake launched into stories of his daughter, a spirited 7-year-old who danced on air, full of light and hope. With every word, Sarah's walls began to crack, revealing the depth of her isolation. His humble nature stood in stark contrast to her lavish life. She realized she knew nothing of the communities beyond her glass towers. Each of Jake's tales pulled at her heart, igniting an aching desire for connection. As headlines exploded with tales of heroism, Sarah's life took an unexpected turn. Wealthy connections tried to compartmentalize his significance, pushing Jake back into the shadows. But he stood firm, his unwavering loyalty to his daughter shining through. In that moment, he became a symbol of resilience against a world that often marginalized him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sarah grappled with her own disillusionment, she felt a fierce spark in Jake's unwavering determination. He wasn't just a waiter, he represented values she had overlooked in her ascent. But would she stand against the scorn of her wealthy peers if it meant embracing a deeper, more meaningful life? The gala had been intended to elevate her status, but it had sparked something else entirely. The room fell silent with anticipation as she stood at a crossroads, caught between a comfortable life and a challenging truth. In that charged moment, the stakes were monumental, and Sarah felt the weight of her choice hanging in the air. Would she follow her heart into the beautiful unknown, or succumb to the pressures that sought to dictate her actions? The tension spiraled, leaving her breathless with anticipation. In the sterile silence of the hospital room, Sarah felt the tension from the gala still tightening around her. Her thoughts raced off in a chaotic storm, echoing the very flames she barely escaped. Every minor decision came crashing back to her, buying into the demands of a lifestyle drenched in materialism, trading genuine connection for social status. And now, lying on this hospital bed, everything felt surreal. Jake. His name pulsed like a small beacon in her heart. Suddenly, the fame and fortune she once cherished seemed hollow. Her fingers trembled as she thought about their brief encounter. What she had dismissed as a blind date had transformed into a pivotal moment in her life, igniting something fierce within her, something she thought had long been extinguished. The doctor's gentle knock on the door broke her reverie. She glanced up as he entered, his white coat flowing behind him, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just endured. "How are you feeling?" he asked, voice steady yet filled with warmth. "I'm okay," she replied, though the words felt foreign. He studied her for a moment, and a soft, knowing smile crept onto his face. "You've been through a lot. It's normal for these feelings to surface. Just remember, it's okay to reach out to others in moments like these." His casual remark bounced around in her head, hammering home the urgency of connection, of healing, of reaching beyond her carefully constructed walls. And there it was, an unexpected push to embrace the world she had eluded for so long. After the doctor left, she picked up her phone, her heart racing. A few taps led her to Jake's number, the actor in her newfound narrative. What would she say? Thank you. That felt too trivial. But she needed to speak to him. As she prepared to dial, her mind swirled with possibilities. What if she invited him for coffee? Would he laugh at her? Or reject the offer, unsure if she only wanted to check off a box marked hero worship? The doubt clawed at her, but she couldn't ignore the warmth that flickered whenever she thought of him. Suddenly, the phone buzzed in her hand, shaking her from her thoughts. A text from her assistant, coordinating the aftermath from the gala. "Sarah, we need to discuss the coverage of the incident. Your image is at stake." A cold wave crashed over her, tightening her chest, ready to pull her back into the icy grip of her old life. "No," she whispered fiercely, fire igniting in her. She couldn't let this moment drown under the weight of public image. Not again. With determination brewing inside, Sarah pressed dial, her heart pounding as the phone rang. On the third ring, she heard his voice. "Sarah? Is everything okay?" Her pulse raced. "Jake, I wanted to talk to you. She paused, her breath hitching in her throat. "Thank you for saving me." "That was a team effort," he replied, so easygoing, yet his casual attitude brought her a sense of calm. "No, it was you. I wouldn't have made it out without you." Silence hung between them, replaced by the faint sound of hospital machinery in the backdrop. But in that moment, she could feel the connection straining to stretch, each word holding the promise of something more meaningful. She hesitated, pulling her courage tight around her. "I want to learn more about you, about your life, if you'd be willing to meet." After a beat that felt like a lifetime, he spoke softly, yet firmly. "I'd like that. Really. Let us start fresh." As they drew tentative plans to meet, Sarah felt hope shimmering on the horizon. With every heartbeat, she edged closer to a life that felt real, untethered from the shadows of her past. But as she hung up, doubt flared again. Would this connection survive the scrutiny of their worlds? And just how much was she willing to risk to find out? In the flickering light of her hospital room, the stakes felt monumental. Sarah's heart surged with newfound courage, but as she nodded resolutely to herself, an unsettling thought tugged at her. What cost would come for seeking this connection? Just as she pondered her next steps, a shadow swept across the room. A familiar figure lingered in the doorway, silhouetted, but still strikingly real. And in that charged silence, everything hung in the balance. The figure stepped fully into the room, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was her mother, her expression a mix of concern and disbelief. "Sarah?" Her voice trembled as she took a step closer, the harsh fluorescent lights overhead casting a clinical glare on their reunion. "Mom." Sarah couldn't meet her gaze just yet. The weight of the evening crashed over her, flooding the room with an uneasy tension. "Why didn't you tell me you were at that gala?" Her mother pressed, her voice thick with worry. "And what happened?" "I just found out you were hurt." "I was just," Sarah began, but the words fell flat. All the anger about the life her mother had carved for them, the expectations, the push for perfection, flickered in her mind. If she spoke too honestly, would it only deepen the rift between them? Just what? Her mother's voice rose slightly, fated to protect her daughter but also determined not to let her skirt around the truth. You've always been so good at burying what's really happening. I can't let you hide anymore. The shielding walls Sarah had built for years began to crack. I was suffocating in all of that, she finally said, the confession spilling out. In that world I was part of. She hesitated, looking down at her hands, still marked by the evening's panic. I thought I was happy. Her mother's demeanor shifted, the edge softening. Honey, happiness doesn't come from the things we have. It comes from the people we choose to surround ourselves with and the truth we allow ourselves to face. Sarah looked up, her mother's words igniting a flicker of something deep inside her. You don't understand. All those people I surrounded myself with, they were just a means to an end. They filled the spaces where connection should exist. Then let us reconnect, her mother urged, stepping even closer, eyes pleading for understanding. You've been hiding in plain sight for years. It's time to face everything together. No. I can't go back to that life. I don't want to. The raw desperation in Sarah's voice hung in the air. But I don't want to hurt you either. But what about you? Her mother asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. What about your happiness? A lump formed in Sarah's throat, all the unspoken emotions swirling like a tempest. She had thought she'd hidden from her mother's expectations, but the truth was she was hiding from herself. The moment hung there, filled with unuttered truths and hesitations. I'm trying to figure that out, she finally said, feeling both weak and liberated in the same breath. Just then, her phone buzzed again, pulling her from the vulnerable moment. She glanced down, an instinctual sense kicking in. It was a message from Jake. Hey, just checking in. Looking forward to our coffee. Let me know when works for you. Her heart raced at the thought of Jake again. A part of her felt like she was at a fork in the road, staying bound to her past or risking everything for a flicker of connection she craved. Sarah's thoughts were immediately interrupted when her mother added, Do you think you're really ready to explore that new beginning? With him? Caught off guard, Sarah paused, the truth hitting like a tidal wave. I don't know if I'm ready, but I need to try. It's a leap, but maybe it's what you really need. A cautious hope glimmered in her mother's eyes, gently encouraging Sarah forward. As her phone buzzed again, another text flashed, this time from her assistant. We need to discuss the social media reaction to last night. We can't ignore this. The air thickened in the room, swirling with everything conflicting inside her, the anticipation of a new beginning with Jake and the pressure of her old life clawing at her, begging for her attention. As her gaze darted between her mother's hopeful expression and the phone's nagging notifications, clarity began to emerge. The choice hovered heavily: would she confront her past bravely or retreat back into the shadows of her old life? Just then, the hospital room door swung open again, revealing Jake standing there, free of the chaos that had brought them together, yet undeniably in the eye of the storm that was her life. In that charged moment filled with possibility, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, was he the answer to her questions, or just one more complication in a world already spun too tight? Jake paused at the doorway, his eyes searching the room, landing on Sarah and her mother, their charged conversation hanging like a suspended breath. For a moment, time felt frozen, and the weight of the reality they were all in began to settle around them. Sarah. I didn't know you were here, he said, his voice steady but the concern evident in his eyes. He stepped in, the door clicking shut behind him, and that simple act felt like a barrier against the outside world. The noise, the expectations, everything that was waiting for her beyond these walls. Her heart raced. She wanted to reach out to him, to share the weight of the conflicting moments she felt. But could she? Would he still want to be there for her after everything that had happened? Her mother tilted her head ever so slightly, studying Jake with a mix of curiosity and protectiveness. Jake, she said, her tone softening as she greeted him. Thank you for coming. Of course. I wanted to see how Sarah was doing. Jake's gaze lingered on her, and for a moment, the chaos around them seemed to fade, leaving only the unspoken questions looming between them. Sarah's pulse quickened. She didn't know how to voice everything that was bubbling within her. The hope, the fear, the longing for something different. Was it worth risking everything for this new possibility? Is everything okay? Jake asked gently, breaking the silence that wrapped around them like fog. She bit her lip, wrangling with her thoughts. I don't know, she finally admitted, emotions clashing inside her. There's too much to unpack right now. Just start where it feels right, he encouraged, stepping closer. His presence filled the space, bringing a comforting warmth that felt both familiar and new. The tension in Sarah's chest slackened slightly. I was at the gala and it all spiraled out of control. She glanced at her mother, as if seeking permission to continue. I thought I could handle it, but I lost myself in it all and... Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder, urging her onward, creating a tether as Sarah navigated through her uncertainty. And then I realized I wasn't living, I was just existing, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. She hesitated, feeling her resolve shake. I want something different now, something real. Jake nodded along, a flicker of understanding sparking in his eyes. You deserve that, Sarah. We all do. A wave of relief washed over her. Maybe sharing this burden wouldn't crush her but instead lighten the weight above her. And... I need to figure out what that means, she said quietly. Without. Maybe it involves people like you. His glance deepened, searching her eyes for honesty. I'd like to be part of that journey, if that's okay with you. The connection was undeniable, but the fear deep within her bubbled back up, the fear of repeating patterns, of diving into something merely out of desperation for change. I just don't want to hurt you, she confessed, her voice wavering. Or get hurt myself again. Jake took a steadying breath, breaking their gaze for a moment. The soft warmth of the hospital lights painted his features, revealing the resolve hardened beneath his calm exterior. Maybe we can figure this out together, he offered. Take it slow. Build on something genuine. The uncertainty flickered in her heart, but there was something powerful in his words, a grounded promise that perhaps there was a different way to navigate through this new beginning. But before she could respond, Sarah's phone buzzed once more, vibrating against the sterile bedside table. The tension returned as her heart sank at the thought of the outside world creeping back into the fragile moment they created. Sarah. Her mother's voice interrupted, eyes wide. You have to make a choice. Will you answer that? They all turned towards the buzzing device, a piece of her old life demanding attention. The moment felt precarious, teetering on the edge of what could be and what was. As she reached for the phone, fluttering uncertainty took wing in her stomach. Would this choice pull her away from Jake, or was it the key to unlocking a door she had yet to step through? Jake's hand found hers, squeezing gently as if to say, I'm here in this moment. But was she truly ready for what lay ahead? Hello, she answered, the decision looming larger than life. With a tight smile, she braced herself for whatever would pull her from this sanctuary. The voice on the other end changed everything. Sarah, we need to talk. It's urgent. And just like that, the cliff edge of her newfound connection felt alarmingly fragile. Would she embrace the uncertainty ahead, or would fear hold her back once more? Sarah's heart raced as the voice echoed in her ear. Urgent. The word alone sent a pang of anxiety coursing through her. She struggled to focus on what was being said, feeling the world around her fade into a blurry backdrop. She glanced at Jake, who was now watching her intently, concern etched across his face. What could possibly be so urgent that it would shatter this moment? Is this about the gala? She whispered, her throat dry. Yes, it's about more than just that, the voice on the other end replied. You need to know what really happened. Her breath caught in her throat. It was one thing to feel overwhelmed, it was another to realize that there were deeper implications at play. As if sensing the shift in her energy, Jake reached out, his thumb rubbing softly over her knuckles. "Sarah," he said gently, as if he could read her tangled thoughts. She nodded, urging her mind to stay present. "I'm listening," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Someone's been digging into your past," the voice continued. "They're looking for information and they've tied it back to you." Her stomach dropped. The pit of dread began to swell. "What do you mean? Who?" She felt the walls closing in. "I can't say much on the phone, but you need to be careful. Meet me at the coffee shop near the park at 4. I'll explain everything." The call disconnected before she could finish, leaving her holding the phone with a mix of frustration and dread. Questions flooded her mind. What did they know? How was her life about to get disrupted again? What was that about? Jake's voice pulled her from her racing thoughts, that steady concern still present. "It's complicated. I need to meet someone." His brow furrowed slightly. "You can't go alone. We don't know who it is." There it was again, that fierce protectiveness she used to lean on. But part of her hesitated. Didn't she need to handle this herself? The last thing she wanted was to drag him into her chaos. "I can't put you in danger, Jake. You have your own life. I want to be there for you, Sarah," he said, solid as steel. "Whatever this is, we'll face it together." She held on to those words as hope sparked within her. Could they navigate this storm as a team? "I don't want to drag you into something messy," she said softly. "It's already messy." "I'm already involved," he replied, and in that moment, she saw not just a friend but an ally, someone willing to wade into the murky waters with her. With a deep breath, she felt the grip of fear loosening its hold just a bit. Perhaps this was what she needed, a partnership where vulnerability could pave the way for strength. "Okay," she said finally, a flicker of determination igniting inside her. "Then let us figure this out." Jake allowed himself a small smile, but the worry didn't leave his eyes. "Just promise me one thing," he said, voice suddenly serious. "What?" "Promise you'll be honest. About everything." The sincerity in his gaze was piercing. She felt that weight of expectation settle between them, an unspoken challenge that rang loud and clear. "I promise," she said, feeling the gravity of her words. But there was still uncertainty lurking in the back of her mind. As if timed with her thoughts, her mother cleared her throat, reminding them both that her presence had not gone unnoticed. "Are we all sure about this?" she asked, her voice filled with maternal concern. "The outside world has a way of creeping in. Are you ready for what awaits, Sarah?" "I don't know," Sarah replied honestly, glancing between Jake and her mother. "But I need to find out." Jake's hand tightened around hers, reminding her of the connection she sought to forge. The path ahead was foggy and fraught with doubt, but she also felt the promise of revelation edging closer. As they prepared to leave, a thought crossed her mind: would this meeting lead to clarity, or would it expose even darker secrets than she was prepared to face? "Let us go," she said, taking a step forward, knowing their first real test was moments away. What awaited them in that coffee shop was still shrouded in mystery, but Sarah knew whatever was about to unfold would either seal their bond or unravel everything they had just begun to build. Would they come out stronger, or would the truth fracture their fragile moment before it even had a chance to thrive? The sun hung low in the sky as Sarah walked towards the coffee shop, an uneasy weight settling in her stomach. Each step felt heavy, burdened by the unknown. Jake walked beside her, his presence a steady reminder that she wasn't alone. They reached the coffee shop, a quaint place with a chalkboard menu and the comforting aroma of roasted beans wafting through the door. The warm glow of the interior contrasted sharply with the apprehension swirling inside her. "Ready?" Jake asked, his eyes searching hers for any hint of confidence. She offered a half-hearted nod, feeling her throat tighten. Inside, the chatter of customers and the clang of plates created a familiar backdrop, yet it all felt distant. The bell above the door chimed as they entered, drawing glances from a few patrons. Sarah scanned the room, searching for the face of whoever had called her. "Over there," Jake whispered. A figure sat in the far corner, shadowed by the afternoon light filtering through the window. Sarah's heart raced as she recognized the silhouette. It was Leo, an old acquaintance from her past, someone she hadn't expected to see again, let alone in a situation like this. His presence stirred a mixture of nostalgia and anxiety. She felt Jake's hand squeeze hers gently. "This is it," he said quietly, encouraging her to move forward. Taking a deep breath, Sarah led them to Leo's table. As they approached, he looked up, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "Sarah," he greeted, his voice smooth, but there was an edge to it that sent a shiver down her spine. "Leo." She kept her tone neutral, forcing herself to maintain eye contact despite the rush of memories that surfaced. "Thank you for coming," he said, his demeanor surprisingly cordial. "I know this isn't easy." "Just tell me what you know," she urged, cutting to the chase. "No more pleasantries." He leaned in, lowering his voice. "There are people digging into your life, and they're not just curious. They're dangerous. I was hoping to help." "Help?" Sarah scoffed. "What do you want from me, Leo?" The casualness faded from his expression. "I didn't come to play games, Sarah. I've seen the damage people like this can inflict. And you're in their sights." Jake moved closer, instinctively placing himself between Sarah and Leo, a protective barrier made of muscle and resolve. "You didn't answer her question," he said tersely. Leo's gaze flicked to Jake, surprise painting his features briefly. "I understand your concern, man. But she needs to understand the stakes. There's a lot more to this than you know." "Just tell us what we are dealing with," Sarah insisted, cutting through the tension. "All right, but you have to promise you'll listen," Leo replied, the seriousness in his tone sharpening. "There's a group that's tied to your family's past. They've resurfaced, looking for something, and you're connected. They suspect you know more than you do." Sarah felt the world tilt precariously. "What do you mean connected? How?" "Your parents, they were involved in something back in the day, something they kept hidden. They thought it was behind them. But these people have resurfaced, and they believe you have the key." "Stop!" Jake interrupted, his voice firm. "What did my family have to do with any of this?" Sarah couldn't breathe. Fear clawed at her chest. Her precious memories of family, safety, and home twisted into secrets she could never have imagined. She felt overwhelmed, like walking through a fog where every step was uncertain. "And if you're caught in the crossfire," Leo added, voice dropping, "things could get very dangerous for you." "I can handle myself," Sarah replied defiantly, though inside she felt the tremors of doubt shaking her foundations. "But can you?" Jake's voice was softer now, laced with concern. "What if this thing gets out of control?" As an oppressive silence fell over the table, an idea nagged at Sarah. Deep down, she sensed this was just the beginning, a puzzle that linked her past to a perilous present. And suddenly, she felt a flicker of determination rise within her. "Then we'll face it together," she declared, meeting Jake's gaze. "With fierce determination. No more running or hiding. If I'm in this, so are you." Leo watched the exchange, intrigue etched on his face. "That's brave. But you need to know, this path could lead to revelations you might not be prepared for. What's worse than not knowing?" Sarah shot back, feeling fire ignite within her. "I'll take my chances." As they began plotting their next step, the weight of what lay ahead was palpable. But the bond between them felt fortified, ready to take on whatever the truth had in store. With a sense of urgency, Leo continued to outline their next move, while Sarah's heart thumped wildly. She was diving headfirst into a storm that might just pull everything apart. Yet, what other choice did she have? Could uncovering her family's buried past shatter her, or would it finally set her free? The tension hung thick in the air as Leo leaned back, his demeanor shifting slightly. "Okay, here's the plan," he started, his voice low but urgent. First, we need to find out exactly who's behind this. They'll be watching you, so we have to play it smart. Sarah exchanged a glance with Jake. What do you mean by they'll be watching? Like, all the time? More like, if they suspect you've discovered something, trust me, they won't hesitate to close in. Leo leaned closer, flicking his gaze around the coffee shop as if expecting shadows to leap from the walls. We need to make it seem like you're living life as normal. Great, so I just act like nothing's up. Sarcasm dripped from her words, but anxiety thrummed in her chest. Exactly. The quieter we keep you in this conversation, the better. Leo folded his hands, his focus entirely on them. You can't tell anyone about this, not even close friends. People might inadvertently become part of this mess. And what if they already are? Jake interjected, his protectiveness intensifying. That's a risk you'll have to take, Leo replied. But trust me. Keeping this under wraps is essential. Silent thoughts raced through Sarah's mind. The idea of pulling away from her closest friend sent a pang through her heart. Could she really isolate herself just to stay safe? I need to know what they're after, she said, her voice steadier now, finding a sense of purpose amidst the chaos. Why me? Leo hesitated a moment, reflecting on the implication of her question. That's where it gets complicated. Your parents didn't just leave a legacy behind. They buried secrets that may contain things even they weren't willing to face anymore. And now it's your turn. An ominous knot formed in Sarah's stomach. What could her parents have been involved in that still cast shadows today? She felt the weight of expectation settle on her shoulders, the enormity of uncovering her family's concealed truth pressing against her like a physical force. A chill ran down Jake's spine as he witnessed the mix of determination and fear in Sarah's eyes. So what's the first step? He asked, rallying himself and Sarah to the cause. We gather information, Leo said, his eyes sharp. Contact a few allies I have. They know the circles these people might be operating in. Wait, what if you're wrong? Sarah blurted out, the thought gnawing at her. What if you have this wrong and you're putting us in even more danger? Leo held her gaze, the seriousness piercing through the tension in the air. I don't believe I am. Just then, Sarah felt a sudden rush of vulnerability, like someone yanked on a thread holding the fabric of her reality together. I'm not sure I'm ready for this, she admitted, swallowing hard. Jake squeezed her hand tight, grounding her. We'll figure this out. Together. His reassuring presence buoyed her dread momentarily, though dark clouds of uncertainty still loomed in her mind. Then let us do it, she finally said, steeling herself for the challenge ahead. I won't let fear control me. Leo nodded solemnly, then shared a wary smile, a silent acknowledgement of both the gravity of the situation and the glimmer of hope within it. Good. First, we need to move quickly. I'll set up a meeting with my contact tonight. Be prepared for anything. As they left the shop, the air outside felt different, charged with anticipation. Still, doubt gnawed at Sarah, swirling alongside the excitement. What if delving into this dark past led to worlds of pain she couldn't handle? Night began its descent as they walked, shadows stretched far behind them, but the trio forged ahead, a united front against an unseen enemy. The stakes were high, and vulnerability lay ahead. Just when Sarah thought they'd escaped the tension of the coffee shop, a figure slipped into their path unexpectedly, a man with dark eyes fixed intently on her. Recognition struck, but before she could process it, he spoke, his voice low and threatening. Looking for something, Sarah? Heart racing, she froze, knowing in that moment that the game was just beginning. Would they be able to protect themselves, or had they just stepped too far into the fire? Sarah's breath caught in her throat, her mind racing as she processed the man's words. The shadows around them felt heavier, suffocating. Who was he? Someone from her past, or a new threat? Without realizing it, her grip on Jake's hand tightened, creating a synchrony of their shared fear. The stranger stepped closer, a cocky grin forming on his lips that set her nerves on edge. "You don't remember me, do you?" "That's okay, I'm here to remind you." "Who are you?" she managed to say, her voice barely rising above a whisper. "Just someone who knows a lot about your family," he replied, leaning in as he spoke. "Do you really think you're ready to dig into those secrets? It can get messy or it can get dangerous." Sarah's thoughts spiraled. What did he know? What had he overheard? Jake stepped protectively in front of her, his body tense. "You need to back off," he said, his voice calm yet firm, a warning laced with authority. The man laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Cute. Trying to protect the damsel in distress. But I assure you, you don't know what you're dealing with." He took another step forward, and Sarah felt every nerve in her body scream to run. "Leo!" she called out as she glanced behind her, desperate for support. But Leo seemed to have vanished into the crowd, leaving them feeling exposed and vulnerable. "Let us go, Sarah," Jake urged, pulling her back slightly. "Move." As they shuffled away, the man's laughter echoed behind them, taunting, reminding her of the tangled web her parents had left behind. They needed to get somewhere safe, but where? With Jake leading the way, they ducked into an alley, shadows enveloping them like a cloak. Sarah leaned against the cold brick wall, her heart pounding. What just happened? She gasped, trying to catch her breath. "There is something more going on here," Jake replied, his brow furrowing. "That guy, he knows something. We need to be smarter, at least until we figure out what we're up against." "Leo said this would happen, but I didn't. I thought we'd have time to prepare." Her words tumbled out, tinged with worry. Jake's hands found her shoulders, his eyes steady on hers. "We'll be okay. We just need to keep our heads in the game. Whatever he knows, we can find out. By digging through my family's past," she murmured, still grappling with the weight of her situation. The thought of deeper shadows stirred fear inside her, almost overwhelming. Just as she was about to voice her worries aloud, a chill raced through the alley. A noise, a rustle, or a whisper caught their attention. They weren't alone. Jake's expression hardened as he strained to listen. "Do you hear that?" Sarah felt a wave of panic wash over her. "What if they're coming for us? We stick together, remember?" Jake whispered fiercely, a reassuring anchor amid the storm. "Stay close." They barely breathed, eyes scanning the darkness, every sound amplified. Anxiety hung in the air like an electric charge. As they waited for whatever came next, before they could plan their next move, the shadows shifted, a figure materializing from the darkness. "Leo. Did you find him?" he asked, glancing back towards the street. Sarah's heart sank as she saw him looking more frantic than before. "What is going on?" she demanded. "We need to go fast," Leo urged, urgency layered within his tone. "Something bigger is happening than I anticipated." As they moved, Sarah glanced back toward the shadows, the chill of dread creeping up her spine. What lay ahead for them was uncertain, but she felt it deep in her gut. This was only the beginning, and just then, another thought struck. Who could she trust in this tangled mess? Did they have anyone left to rely on? Before she could voice her concerns, another voice echoed behind them, chilling her to the bone. "You're not running anywhere." Fear pinned her in place as she turned to face whatever was coming next. Did she have the strength to confront the truth looming over her family? "Turn around!" Leo shouted, pulling Sarah and Jake closer as they faced the looming figure. The alley felt even darker, shadows curling around them like living things. The man moved into the dim light, revealing a face Sarah recognized too well. David, someone she had never imagined she'd have to confront again. Memories flooded back, the laughter of a family gathering, the warmth of cheerful conversations. Yet all that remained was the chilling uncertainty of what he wanted now. "David?" Sarah breathed, her heart racing. Her confusion mixed with a sense of betrayal. "What do you want? Why are you here?" He shrugged, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. I came to warn you, Sarah. You're in deeper than you think. The trouble isn't just a game anymore. Why would you care? Jake interjected, stepping forward, protecting Sarah even more fiercely. Stop playing with her. David's laughter rang out, unsettling and hollow. I'm not the enemy here. You don't even know who you're really up against. Your parents, don't you dare bring them into this. Sarah snapped, feeling that familiar hurt emerge. Only now was she realizing how many pieces of her family's past had been left unfinished. Right. A good daughter defending them, he shot back, frustration creeping into his voice. But you think they were blameless? The truth is darker than you know. I don't have time for your riddles. She shouted, anger bubbling at the surface. Just tell me what I should do. Fine. Here's the first step. You need to stop looking for answers in familiar places, David said, his demeanor shifting slightly, sincerity creeping in. Your family's past is a tangled mess you can't untangle alone. Let me help you navigate through it. What's your angle? Jake said, unconvinced, arms crossed tightly against his chest. David sighed, glancing at Jake, annoyance evident in his furrowed brow. You may not trust me, and I get it. But trust me when I say, you don't want to push me away now. As much as it pained her to consider trusting him, Sarah felt the undeniable pull of his words. Deep down, every fiber of her being warned against him, yet a flicker of hope glittered in the darkness. Could he genuinely be a lifeline, or was he luring her closer to danger? Just then, the distant sound of sirens broke the tense silence, piercing through the fog of uncertainty. Panic surged again, raw and palpable. We need to hurry. Leo insisted, glancing nervously towards the street. Come with us, David, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the rising heat within. If you're genuine about wanting to help, this time, prove it. We can't afford to stand alone. For a split second, she saw hesitation dance across David's features, but then it was gone, replaced by a glint of acceptance. All right, he replied, his expression shifting into something darker. But be prepared. The answers may lead you to places you never wanted to go. With hurried resolve, they all turned to flee the shadows of the alley, darting toward the unknown. As they made their way into the night, a thought nagged at Sarah. Could the truth and those who hold it ever truly be trusted? Was this alliance forged in fear or bound by courage? Just ahead, a rustle in the trees made her stop short. A figure appeared at the edge of the alley. You think you've escaped? The voice was familiar yet foreign, sending a jolt of terror through her. In the face of danger once more, she wondered if running was even an option. Time was running out, and the truth was lurking just behind them. Would they be able to face it together, or would the shadows consume them all? The weight of the night pressed down on Sarah's shoulders as she and her unanticipated allies ventured deeper into the unknown. The tension crackled like static in the air, every sound magnified as they seemed to move in slow motion, a collective heart pounding, seeking shelter from shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. Jake's hand tightened around hers. He navigated through the dimly lit streets with an intensity that told her he would protect her at all costs. Leo stayed a step ahead, glancing over his shoulder, and David trailed close, his presence a wild card in their high-stakes game. Where do we go from here? Sarah whispered, her voice trembling with equal parts fear and determination. Leo cast a look toward a nearby park, its grassy expanse drawing them in like a beacon of safety. We need somewhere hidden. Let us head for the trees. We can talk there. There was an undeniable urgency in his voice, guiding them toward the darkened thicket where they could rest and plan. Once they reached the shelter of the trees, Sarah turned to face the whirlwind of emotions swirling among them. What do you know? What are we really facing? She demanded, shaking off the weight of the world pressing in on her. David took a deep breath, leaning against a tree, his expression shifting from cocky to sincere. It runs deeper than any of us fully understand. Your parents were involved with a group that operates in the shadows, and they'll stop at nothing to keep their secrets hidden. What secrets? Jake challenged, still standing fiercely beside Sarah, ready to shield her from whatever threat loomed in the darkness. Things that would change how you see your family. They were part of something that didn't just affect their lives, it spilled over into yours. There are agendas that extend beyond your understanding. Each word David uttered piled onto Sarah's unease. What kind of agendas? She pressed on, a mixture of anger and fear gripping her heart. The kind that involved manipulation, power plays, and innocent lives, people who got hurt. He paused, studying her face. Your family thought they could escape it. But your involvement brought it back. Your past is now a target. Jake shifted, his concern morphing into a fierce protectiveness as he looked at Sarah. We won't let them hurt you. Not again. But Sarah's heart raced, not just from fear but from a sudden realization, she wasn't just a bystander in this twisted tale, she was at the center of it. What do I have to do? She asked, voice firm despite the tremor beneath it. If we're going to uncover the truth, we have to be smart, Leo advised, stepping forward. We need to draw them out. Stay under their radar while still getting the information we need. No more running away. David nodded solemnly. That means forging some connections with people who can help, even if it feels uncomfortable. You can connect with your parents' old contacts, but watch your back. They may not all be allies. Their fate felt tethered to each word spoken in that wooded refuge. Sarah's eyes flicked toward Jake, his unwavering gaze giving her some measure of strength. Together, she echoed softly, anchoring herself to the idea that her hope didn't need to reside in darkness alone. Let us do this, Jake said with firm resolve, pushing aside the uncertainty lacing the air. We'll protect each other. Their course set, they emerged from the shadows of the trees, the night enveloping them as they edged back toward the world bustling with energy at its core, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond sight. Yet as they ventured forth, Sarah felt a shift stir within her. Each step began to unshackle fear, replacing it with a pulse of raw energy. She was learning to navigate treacherous waters, to utilize every connection and instinct she possessed. This wasn't just about her life anymore, it was about those she cared for, with Jake by her side, Leo guiding, and David watching from a distance. The night felt charged with the promise of reckoning, the illumination of truth no matter how painful. The road ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but within that uncertainty lay an ember of hope. Just as they reached the edge of familiar territory, a sudden movement flickered in the shadows. A voice slithered through the darkness, sharp and chilling. Did you think you could just walk away? Sarah froze. The night illuminated the face of a figure she never wanted to see again, a looming reminder of forces she had hoped to escape. What do you want? She demanded, her heart thumping violently. He chuckled softly, his eyes narrowing with malicious delight. Oh, Sarah. You're in way over your head. But don't worry, I'll be right here to guide you. In that moment, the pieces of her past that had remained buried began to stitch themselves together, dark threads intertwining with the bright hopes of her present. As uncertainty shrouded the night, the warmth of her newfound allies bolstered her resolve. They would face this storm together. Sarah inhaled deeply, and with the strength of the future hovering on the horizon, she replied, You can't control me. It's time for the truth to come out. And just like that, the game began. Every heartbeat a step forward into the light of a new dawn, the possibility of love, self-discovery, and the undeniable strength to confront whatever lay ahead. When everything hung in the balance, Sarah knew there was no going back. Fear might cling to her heels, but the truth, it was worth chasing. And then they moved forward, side by side, united against the dark, their hearts anchored in the promise of unearthing every hidden secret, ready to redefine not just their destinies, but their very lives. As the night unfolded, the challenges ahead loomed like mountains. But together, they could dare to scale them, one step at a time. Now is the moment. If you felt the adrenaline racing with Sarah and Jake on this journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Leave a like now. Let's feed the algorithm and keep these epic stories alive. You must comment your reactions and feelings about this thrilling ending. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support.